Some of you might think that this video is in poor taste by concept alone, and of those of you who think that, some are either celebrating or condemning me for it. However, this video is not intended as a shot to a show in an uncertain place. Rather, I'm doing this because it's a continuation of what I've already done, and with Biff doing his own continuation of his favourite scenes video, go check out after this one, I agreed that I should do this too. When making this video, I want to approach this less from the perspective of, here are some dumb scenes I want to laugh at because I don't like this part, and more, here's what I think is the weakest part and how this could have been improved. And with how fantastic the last two seasons have been, take the difficulty that was choosing some of these scenes as a testament to the quality of the episodes. I'm going through seasons 9 and 10 and talking about what I consider to be my least favourite parts of the fights, with the exception of the killing blow, because otherwise a lot of the best and worst will probably be the killing blow depending on how good or bad it is. If anything I say here contradicts my reviews or rankings, it's probably because my opinion has changed on certain things, but let's go. Also, just to be extra clear, we are obviously only looking at the fights for this video. We're not looking at the analyses or the ad reads, because those would obviously be the worst parts of the episodes overall. That would be ridiculous though, isn't that right, lads?
I'm not talking to you.
But Unicron, this video, it's sponsored by G Fuel, your favorite!
I am very upset with you, Galvatron. Every time you mention G Fuel, you feel the need to explain it to me.
G Fuel is your all-in-one cheat code in a can! It contains 0 calories, 0 sugar, and 0 carbohydrates.
I am a god. Why would any of that matter to me?
And it is plant-based, making it vegan-friendly as well as delicious.
Yes, it contains caffeine, I know.
It is an energy formula that will give you all the energy you need, but only because of the caffeine, which means you should only...
I'm aware. Drink responsibly, and is not for children under the age of 18, to which I am not.
But there is the hydration range, which contains no caffeine, and is there if you only want to enjoy the taste. I quite like the taste of G Fuel, such as my new favorite flavor.
Fine. What is this one?
Snow cone. It's delicious. As is this one, the one about Gundams or something.
Gundam! You dare bring Gundams into my lair? You must die.
Scrod or whatever new Cybertronian curse word they've come up with.
The Epion system indicates that you require G Fuel. The Epion system indicates that you must head to the affiliate link in the description and use code BLOODRIGHT for 20% off your order.
Be silenced!
The Epion system indicates that I should move from this.
Harley Quinn vs Jinx had a lot of moments that paused the pacing of the fight for the sake of comedy, and usually those worked fine for me. However, I don't really like the firecracker line. Not even just the line itself, just the way it pauses the pacing for a bit more than I'd like and isn't really funny. The following joke is a bit of a banger, but the emphasis on her pulling out these fake glasses and how exaggerated her delivery is, it feels like it's trying too hard to sell the comedy. The rest of the jokes in the episode feel more effortless, or of a level of absurdity that sells the joke alone. Both of which apply to the joke directly following it, but this joke itself doesn't do it for me. As much as I love the Superman punch in Scarlet Witch vs Zatanna, the whole superhero fight kinda fails in two ways for me. For one, this is a battle that is sold by the scale of the magic and random abilities the two share, and this fight overall doesn't really offer much, at least for Scarlet Witch in that regard, relegating her to a bare minimum of what she's capable of. Basically, almost exclusively using big energy booms and telekinesis with very few exceptions. One of which is just summoning these guys, which takes time away from selling the breadth of Wanda's powers to focus instead on the same level of normal, average physical beatings that we get in almost every single episode of Death Battle, shoehorning in a less unique, more overdone dynamic when the episode didn't need one. But also, the fighting in and of itself is also incredibly slow and lacks energy. Hulk slamming especially feels really sluggish when it shouldn't. The only thing in Tanjiro vs Jonathan Joestar that particularly bothers me is the level of out of character that Jonathan displays at the start of the episode. Jonathan is one of the nicest combatants in the series, and him acting in such a way feels really off. Tanjiro's response is also a bit unusual, but with how sympathetic Jonathan is to demons and the like, it just stands out more to me. You can argue that this is somewhat necessary to get a fight to even start between them, and I would be willing to understand that, so the next worst would be Jonathan just standing there doing nothing while Tanjiro attacks his sword. The intention is that Jonathan is meant to be blocking, but he's not really animated that way. Thor vs Vegeta is such a mediocre episode to me that it's hard to really say what I think is the worst. Yeah, I don't like Vegeta's "does a god like you feel fear" line for how fucking basic it is, and how it's one of many reused quotes from Dragon Ball in this episode, but the actual animation looks nice. The water being prevented from closing around him due to his power is cool as well, and the headbutt itself goes in. I also don't like Thor's "no fear, only thunder" line, because it just sounds weird, like, what the hell do you mean only thunder? But like, it's not that notable in any way. I don't like Thor's "go for the head" bit because that's just objectively the wrong Thor to have that line, but the actual kill is sick. I also don't like Vegeta's usage of Hakai, but I also understand that Jarnbjorn is literally the only part of Thor that isn't immune to the technique. So it probably just goes to this shot of the God Blast hitting the mountain. I get that this isn't the most high-scale fight overall, because while Thor regularly has planetary scale battles in the comics, Vegeta has never reached the same scale Thor has. But come on, this little fizzle that did less damage than Thor just hitting Vegeta into the mountain with a normal blow was supposed to be his big finisher. It definitely should have had at least destroyed, or at least slightly annoyed the mountain. Omni-Man vs Homelander. It doesn't do much wrong in terms of individual scenes, it's just the overall approach that I see being divisive. But this combo on Homelander feels like nothing. It genuinely just looks to me like Nolan isn't even hitting him, because whatever deformation goes on with his fist and Homelander's body is not noticeable enough that it just feels like he's stopping short and the wind pressure is hitting Homelander. Magneto vs Tetsuo. What an episode. There's genuinely pretty much nothing I can say I dislike. The most I can say is that the speed of the debris that end up cutting off Tetsuo's arm feel a bit too slow. For what's supposed to be something too fast for him to avoid, it just comes across as weird. And like, man, that's it. There is so much to pick for Boba Fett vs Predator, but when it comes down to it, it has to be basically that entire final clash. Boba Fett's line is really unlike what I'd see from Boba Fett, especially given the minimal amount of profanity in Star Wars. I genuinely think I've seen worse would be more in character for him. The flamethrower that's supposed to have messed up the Yautja's sight has no discernible effect. The clash of weapons is slow, clumsy, and the camera work is really all over the place. The Yautja being confused and stopping his attack is not only strange because he knows where Boba Fett is, but also because we see later that the lightsaber stands out from the fire because of how hot it is. And there's no reason he'd believe that Boba Fett literally just instantly after landing and groaning audibly moved. But then he struggles to see Boba despite having no issues beforehand. And the final blow that supposedly injures the Predator so much that he cannot fight anymore cuts off a few dreadlocks but doesn't do any damage to the guy himself. It bounces off of his armor perfectly. Then he proves himself a dishonorable Predator by using his self-destruct as a weapon. Anything after this point counts as a killing blow itself, but the entire build-up and final clash is really clumsy. It contradicts the research in ways that are just weird, in that they specifically mention things that they connect to the fight that are not what actually happens in the fight, and it doesn't sell the Predator even being injured at all when the lightsaber just bounces off his manly tits. The ending of Excalibur vs Raiden after the kill is so nothing. Literally, some guy just shows up from the start of the fight and that's it. Clearly this isn't Death Battle's fault, this was something probably mandated by the company behind Warframe. But what the hell was the company thinking? Arguably, you could say that it's just mandated, so if you don't count that, it has to be Excalibur cutting this box, it explodes, and then he goes off the wrong side of the building, meaning that the explosion sucked him in and threw him out the other side. It's hard to explain exactly why, but the start of James Bond vs John Wick's actual fight portion just feels off. There's a degree of slowness that doesn't really fit either character. I can forgive the clumsiness, as John just attacks out of instinct before getting his bearings, and James is just trying to avoid this until he can regain his own, but it looks really slow. The jump over the counter I think also lacks a bit of weight, and the screaming people sound really feels out of place when nobody is there. Now that I think about it, who is James even ordering his drink from? Doug Walker? Someone needs to edit this episode putting Doug Walker bartender clips in, commenting vaguely about the fight. It would be the best video ever made.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, his wife's a kicky slut.
Black Adam vs. Apocalypse does a lot right, but it isn't immediately obvious that Black Adam is crippled from Apocalypse's giant punch to the point of being unable to stand up anymore. So him not trying to do anything and not even trying to fly, which has no connection to his ability to use his spine, is strange. As is him randomly stopping the Shazam shout. I've heard the arguments. I've already explained why they don't work for me. The main one is that he stops because Apocalypse absorbed the living lightning, so he doesn't have that power anymore. Black Adam doesn't know that. Like, clearly by the fact that he's trying to summon it, he doesn't know that, and he has no way to find out about it until he finishes saying the phrase. And he can't have known about it prior, because he would have lost the wisdom of Zehuti that's constantly chiming in. In fact, if Apocalypse had absorbed the lightning, he wouldn't even be Black Adam anymore. He'd have reverted back to Teth Adam, fuck. I think a better sell would be him saying it but nothing happens, and he tries desperately a few more times, and the last one is when he stops and goes, oh shit. For how little jank is present in Trunks vs. Silver, the opening sword slices from Trunks really stand out amidst the fantastic everything else they did with him. But that might still not be as bad as Trunks transforming for no reason after stopping an attack in base form with ease. It feels understandably enough that they just wanted to speed their way through to the good shit, but as a result, this transformation ends up suffering, especially in the face of what Trunks does later. Pretty much all the problems I have with SpongeBob vs. Aquaman originate from the fact that the episode is pretty much exclusively made for fans of a show that I have not seen. I can't even say whether or not the stuff that feels weird doesn't fit or not, because it could be SpongeBob stuff. Anything that feels off could be because it's a reference to a show I've not seen. I can't even confirm if Aquaman calling himself a ripoff when he objectively is not is weird, because again, that could be a SpongeBob reference. I guess the little animation of SpongeBob going through the door is weird, and that probably isn't a reference, maybe. Jason vs. Michael is an episode that people who are fans of can't just accept they like without having to argue incorrectly to justify it. Like, oh, it's okay because a movie between the two would also focus on random people. But this is not a crossover movie, and a movie as shown in Freddy vs. Jason would focus on the two fighting when the scene of them fighting comes around. It would not be like this. Either way, the worst part of this fight to me is the long pointless sequence of Michael chasing this guy. Michael has less than a full minute of screen time in this animation, and Jason barely has a minute with his long walk at the end. And most of Michael's is dedicated to this, where he hits a guy in the back full force while he makes a drama mask face, and it does nothing. I do not care if this is a Dead by Daylight thing. Michael is not a character from Dead by Daylight, and I've not played it. I've watched all the Halloween films, so I should have all the knowledge I need to be able to get everything out of this episode. But this is not that. It is off to the majority of his depiction. It doesn't help that everything in this episode sells Jason as infinitely superior to Michael, with Michael having basically no hope, and that extends to Michael's full force blow doing nothing, but Jason's killing the guy instantly, and also the gravestone that was between them at the same time. Sauron vs. the Lich King is hard to really say anything bad about. This is the most cinematic episode the series has ever done. The most I can say is maybe Lich King launching himself at the start feels out of line with the rest of how he fights in the episode. He is a lot slower in pacing throughout this fight, and this launch really doesn't have the same energy. That or the weird floating. I'm going to ignore anything to do with Asta's characterization in Deku vs. Asta, and I'll let the comment section hash it out again. Let me know if this is perfectly in character or completely out of character. I'm also not counting Asta's first hit not instantly killing Deku. I also can't really count the stupid ending because it's too close to Deku's death. And otherwise, the episode's animation is generally unremarkable. I guess Deku throwing this building feels really weird because I don't recall him being given telekinesis, and it does not look like wind pressure, and Deku's repeated Detroit smash is whatever. Also, Deku giving his big ass speech and final scream but being met with Asta just charging him with a normal headbutt while basically entirely silent is really strange. I don't know, one of those I'm sure if I cared enough. It's truly stunning to me how the DBX for Gogeta vs Vegito managed to sell the bluff Kamehameha better. What with the extended build-up, the animation leading to the flat anti-climax and an amusing reaction from Vegito, but the death battle just doesn't do that. It has a build-up technically, but what sells it in the DBX is the brief animation of everything turning white as if this was a devastating blow before it fades into just being the party popper. The death battle instead just has the popper show up with minimal to make it feel like it would have had impact if it was an attack. Vegito offers no reaction whatsoever, and Gogeta's laugh about it is less emphasized, making it overall less funny. Not to mention, it's followed on by Gogeta spending ages charging an attack, and Vegito just watching patiently as all this happens. Okay. It feels like Gogeta should have solar flared or something first. Special mention to the tone deafness of the variety line and the completely underwhelming Big Bang Kamehameha versus Final Kamehameha. But at least the latter had a decent build-up, and the former isn't directly shown up by a lower budget animation. Ant-Man vs. the Atom is one of the weakest episodes of its season to me, and it's also really hard to pin down a scene I can call the worst. If anything, the most notably unfortunate bit is just the insignificant explosion caused by Atom's whole, "Oh, I'll search every electron pathway" spiel. I get they're tiny right now, but giving Atom's only moment of being intelligent some impact, or honestly having him use it on something that's actually problematic to him and not something he dodged effortlessly when instead he could have used it on, like, I don't know, Ant-Man's suit would have probably been better to make his intelligent moment, singular, feel like it mattered. I can't include the disappointingly meager Fusro Da at the end because that's technically the death, and I don't feel like using the one at the start because on its own, the moment's okay, It's just in context with the ending that it's frustrating to show the undead tanking the attack with a shield, implying that this shield is stronger than the entirety of the first flame if the same attack could destroy one but not the other. I think on its own I'd have to choose just this. I don't know, the rolling isn't very amusing to me, it slows the pacing down and feels out of place. The rest of the fight feels cinematic and dynamic, while this moment feels like a bit of gameplay that doesn't really fit. Also, the hammer strike is really awkward. First off, because the build up is abrupt and sudden, and the attack itself is moving at a single speed. It doesn't accelerate or get faster, it's a constant pace. An attack like this should start slow and build up speed, that's how momentum works. And without that, the attack feels like it's weightless. It's so weird that I forgot everything about Killua vs Misaka before rewatching it. Anyway, the fight on the side of the building really just looks stiff and awkward. Misaka especially, her torso is in the same position pretty much the whole time. There's minimal motion, which results in her looking like she's swinging with only her arm and not using her body. This leads to some really awkward looking sword fighting. Killua is a bit less problematic, but he has some weird posing too. It has similar energy to Mortal Kombat animations where the characters almost never change position relative to the camera, so they look like they're not putting their everything into it. Stitch vs Rocket Raccoon doesn't have much going wrong. The Rocket jumping straight up while Stitch is pretty much just in front of him, and then firing diagonally downward when Stitch is currently directly below him, and then that cutting straight to Stitch in the middle of being blasted instead of getting shot. It feels awkward and weird. It feels like Rocket should have pushed Stitch back before jumping up, and that a shot of Stitch getting hit with the blast is missing. Darth Vader vs Obito is so good that it's a toss-up between, oh look, Obito just changed model really suddenly and that's weird, or why did Vader's mask just regrow the damage in this shot? Like, I'd want to say it'd be Obito's hilarious murder of Vader that's completely unwarranted, because he's just like, here, have paradise, also have fun in the next life. Anyway, I'm going to destroy your soul so you can never reincarnate ever again. After giving you like maybe a month in the Genjutsu because the Tsukuyomi only gives 3 days per second, but like that's a death so I can't say it, so it's one of those minor animation errors. Phoenix vs Raven has plenty to criticize, but I'd probably give it to this weird turning bit with Raven where it just goes choppy for no reason. Mostly because the closest next issue is the non-event that is the White Room bit, but that is the death, so do I need to say anything? This looks weird. After Guts vs Dimitri's phenomenal build up to Guts using the Berserker armor and Dimitri doing that, the super speed vicious clash immediately cuts away from the cool action we wanted, and then there's these shots of some weird looking Mortal Kombat 11 blood hitting the ground. And then when we cut back, they're back to fighting at the exact same speed they were before. For how Guts should be going wild and manic, having him return to basically the same pacing he was using beforehand feels antithetical to the point of the Berserker armor. We only get about 20 seconds of the Berserker armor in general, and it's a bit underwhelming how little it does and how quickly it goes from full speed swinging to normal swinging to getting body. Genuinely, I think the best Berserker armor usage on the Death Battle channel is goddamn Guts vs Cloud. And I mean usage of the armor itself, not the transformation. That easily goes to Guts Dimitri. Martian Manhunter vs Silver Surfer is pretty standard throughout. I'd probably say the bit where the black and white grain goes to just normal animation for how disappointing it is probably the worst, but also these rocks coming around Surfer don't even look like Manhunter is moving them, it's just strange. I have to admit, Bill vs Discord's worst scene is the Code of Honor joke. It's pretty locked to one specific fan base, so a lot of the people in this community of individuals who don't watch things that aren't from Japan probably have no idea what was being said. The big reason that Cole McGrath vs Alex Mercer's sneak peek was kind of concerning to some people is because the animation and pacing of the intro is really strange. The helicopter bit is fine, but once it lands, Alex opening the door looks really fast for some reason, and it has minimal weight to it. The camera work is also strange for the shot after. It just looks weird. Gojo vs Makima gives Gojo such massive Kamen Rider Kabuto I'm him vibes. He's such a confident, smarmy asshole who feels like he spends so little energy roasting Makima that he actually gains sauce from doing it. Except when he suddenly goes, "You're so weak," like an overweight Reddit-obsessed Pokemon fan joining a harassment mob on a semi-popular YouTuber who said they think Pokemon should have more time put in to make the games good. Normally, I'd say the worst part of Scooby-Doo vs Courage the Cowardly Dog is the big universe explosion basically just slightly making Courage a bit sooty and nothing else. Despite us seeing the technique doesn't even hurt the people who were in it, so it shouldn't even have done that and just destroyed the building. But I'm too distracted by these random characters who just show up in this room, they somehow know how to do the triangle and vanish again. I think I'll name them Obvious and Fucking Joke. They're very misunderstood in the community, I'm sure. There's probably worse in Rick Sanchez vs the Doctor, but I hate the delivery of, "Son of a bitch, he's ignoring me?" It's just weird. Or maybe it's the scene where that loser Nemesis Bloodreich shows up. Goku vs Superman 3 is an episode of such consistent quality overall, whether you like it or not, that it's hard to say there's any point where it dips below the quality of the rest. The most I can say is, the solar flare looks really dull and lacks much in the way of vibrantness, especially compared to a lot of the other effects in the episode, which is mostly notable because it is a blast of pure solar energy. It's not a huge thing, but it is noticeable. And the last episode, for now, Galactus vs. Unicron, which gives me a lot to choose from. Unicron using the phrase transforming, which is a phrase that has been historically used to denote when Unicron has explicitly failed. Like when transforming is used in the context of Unicron in Transformers, it means Unicron has lost. Or Unicron acting like a boastful asshole several times when anytime he's fought an equal, he's been silent, all business, rip them apart. And Galactus's multiple, "I've decided I'm strong enough to match you after you went through all that effort to power up" moments. But I think the worst of them all has to be Unicron's "finally I've won" line. Even ignoring the fact that, what do you mean finally? This is a 3-minute fight and you've been fighting for billions of years straight against Primus. This is nothing. It is such a remarkably corny line to a level even beyond the already silly and out of character way that Unicron was written. If this episode didn't already give away the fake out by explicitly telling you that this does not work on Galactus, and you weren't already clued in by how genuinely unbothered Galactus is about Unicron taking over the Nullifier, or the music continuing, the immediate way in which Unicron says this just screams that it's a fake out. Followed by Galactus showing up and apparently absorbing Unicron, but that's the kill, so I'm not counting it. This line on its own has the same energy as Unicron just going,
He's right behind me, isn't he? Awkward. What the scallop? I can't be the only one who noticed that, right? Huh, so that just happened.
It's just not a good line, pretty much in any regard. Just silence would have sold the fake out better. And that was the video. Again, this is not meant as a takedown of Death Battle. Honestly, I wasn't even planning on making this, but if I can help Biff pay the bills with another Death Battle video, then I'm all for it. I love Death Battle, and that last season seriously had so little to really go into because rarely was anything particularly bad. These were 2 great seasons, and well worth a rewatch if you ever have time. If any animators are watching this, no hard feelings if your bit happened to be what I talked about. Same with writers, editors, post-viz guys, voice actors, and so on. A project like this is never one person's work, and it's never one person's fault whenever something doesn't come across as good as the rest. This isn't directed at anybody in particular. Tell me down below what your least favorite parts are, let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time. Well, that was that video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Sorry, the uploads have been kind of like slowing down because things happening in life. Yeah. And there's really nothing to say. Things have been happening in life, so uploads have been slowing down. I've just not had motivation to work on anything. Don't worry. Give it a bit. I'll get back to doing more videos. I'll probably work on the Kratos crossover Kings. The next episode, not Death Battle, Mewtwo vs. Cooler, is approaching completion. This is a bit more that needs to be animated. I need to edit these things together. I'm working on Ruby Ice Queen Unbridged, which I'm about halfway through that. That's a huge project because it's a huge series. I'm working on a few things. This is another Death Battle video for you, so hopefully this makes some views, and go watch Biff Weed's video. I had this all pre-recorded before shit happened. So I just thought I'd edit it, so I didn't want to leave Biff Weed waiting too long to upload his. I want to help him out. So yeah, thank you to everyone currently supporting me on Patreon. You have no idea how helpful it is, genuinely. Every little bit counts, especially right now as fucking things are. If you want me to draw something horrible for you, I guess I have what you could call commissions open. It's more so some long event, which I'm going to finish off the last ones I've been paid to do after I finish recording this and get the thing rendering. So yeah, if you want to go to my Twitter and look if you fucking want, I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna try to do this part properly. Get back in the character of the chipper Australian Nemesis Bloodreich. Is if you want to make me say something stupid, well, you just need to give me $1 on Patreon. And you can access the Discord, where people talk about things, and you probably will get to see, I don't know if I'm going to make this video go up early. I'll ask Biff Weed if he's okay with that. Yeah. So, yeah, let's just see here. I, Nemesis Bloodreich, am here to say that we support trans rights. Yep. Kamen Rider. Decade. Final Attack Rider. Decade. Not up to Decade. I'm watching Amazon right now. I just realized I've got my double driver up here. And I've forgotten to take the memories out, and if you leave the memories in the double driver for too long, I believe it can damage them. Well, I know that's how the Deca driver works, where if you leave the cards in too long, then the scanner gets messed up. I don't know if that necessarily applies to the double driver, but I don't want to risk it. Henshin Impact is an open world RPG. How's the item shop, Ollie? I don't think I can just ask her to come in and say bad for me, but if I could, then I would put that here. Meow. I mean, what are you guys coming up with? Mr. Mayor, Godzilla just showed up and is hitting the cleanest fucking gritty in our city. Pringle looks like a good fella. Try my recipe. Cream of jort soup. 1 cream. 1 jort. 1 soup. Cook until done. Domain expansion. Special interest yap session. Baba Booey. Who is he? No, it can't be. Make peace with whatever god you worship, Mark. We're dead. I've not even looked at Akinator in fuck knows how long. 3 days left until the Mario steals your liver. What the fuck? Hi, my name is Nemesis Bloodreich, and you're watching Disney Channel. I'm just kidding, I haven't sold out that much. I'm trans. Okay. Hi, guys. Holy shit, it's Winston from Overwatch. Overwatch. I don't know what Winston sounds like. For all I know, he doesn't even speak. He just speaks in monkey. He just goes, whoo, whoo, whoo. Alright, that sure was a bit. Yeah, okay, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Bye.